And we are live. Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico and I am your in-house conservative. To my left is Rob Ambrose, our token lefty, and together we look at what's trending in the news. Our goal is simple. We want to show you that somebody from the left and somebody from the right can get along. And if we don't, you know what we do? We have a civil conversation like human beings. It's a weird concept, isn't it? Because don't
Crazy.
forget, political affiliations has no political affiliations.
Common sense, you
Common
mean?
sense has no political affiliations.
Fucked it
What's going
up.
on? Ah,
What's going on, brother? Well, we're almost at the end of the week, so I think we always try to keep things light here on Fridays, but the news keeps having other ideas. Sometimes the news hits and it's tough to keep it light. We got a big show for you guys today. Lots of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it is not as light as I would have liked it.
Yeah, but sometimes
But
it is what it is.
Yeah, but there's certain things that needs to be addressed, and we don't get to pick and choose, right?
Exactly.
So
we are slaves to the news cycle.
yeah, but on top of that, there's so much stuff going on that you can pretty much pick and choose what you want to talk about. But there's a few things I really, really want to address, and I think it's important. Like, is the Ukrainian-Russian war over? Because it might be. Not saying that it is, but it's as close as we've been in 3 years.
Yeah, it's certainly been a stalemate for Kaplan. I mean, we're going to get into it, but like Donald Trump or hate him, he's gotten movement on this issue, right? He's broken the stalemate.
You're absolutely right. Damn, I forgot my coffee on the counter. Shit. 2 seconds. I'll be back. I can't live without coffee. Hold on.
Do your thing. Do your thing. So we're going to talk about that. Of course, because it is a Friday, we're going to keep things light at the end, and we've got a few sort of funny issues. But yeah, I mean, when big news happens, I mean, it's sort of got to take precedent and priority. So so we're gonna start with that. What else are we gonna talk about today, Nico?
I have a bunch of stuff, man. It really depends on how much time we actually have, because
that's right.
I wanted to talk about the Ukrainian war. I wanted to talk about Trump wanting to cut taxes. I want to speak about something I found yesterday that I find extremely troubling. Canada is about to resume aid to Syria. This I really want to address. Yeah, no, but hold on. It's really messed up because it's not in the news, right? The news is not talking about this, but it was reported yesterday. I had to research it to make sure that it was true, but everything that I can find is showing that it is indeed true. So I wanted I definitely.
That's a great topic to talk about. Remember when we had Jason on the other day, and after the show, we kind of got some feedback from him, and he said one of the things that he really liked about the show as a fan was that we have that we really find that sweet spot on topics between mainstream enough to keep the mainstream audience interested, but also outside the box a little bit, so that if you're just following mainstream media, you're not going to see some of these topics. So I think that really hits right in that wheelhouse.
Oh yeah, it's definitely. But I'm gonna have to. I have a few videos to show about that just to kind of put it into perspective, because it's very strange. It's very, very strange. I definitely want to talk about Daniel Smith's comment that she made yesterday, the Premier of Alberta. We definitely are talking about Sarah McBride. I found a video that's a bit on the lighter side, but at the same time, it needs people like there's a few videos that I found that those people needs to get exposed. Like, they need to be shown as in, how the fuck is that type of behavior acceptable? Because it has been acceptable under a woke government, but I got a feeling that this type of crap is going to stop very soon. Like, very, very soon.
What are we talking about specifically?
I don't want to ruin it for you. They're short videos. I don't think they're they're not going to need a lot of explanation, mostly as in,
surprise us.
Is that really acceptable behavior? Because that's what it comes down to, right? It seems that, you know, under a very, very liberal / woke government, certain things are acceptable. When you are, you know, when you are not under that same government anymore, shit needs to change. I think that this type of behavior needs to be addressed, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the first video should be seen as good news, obviously. The fact that there is talks right now of a 30-day ceasefire between Russia and the Ukraine, which everybody out there, I don't care on which side of the fence you fall on this one, or if you're like me, somewhere in the middle and you just don't want to get involved, you should be happy to hear, because it's still people dying, right? At the end of the day, people have been dying. I think 1 million of Ukrainians, I think last time I checked, they were talking about like 1 million Ukrainians have died since the beginning of the war. I don't know if those numbers are real, but God, if they are,
I mean, it's hard to, you know, in the middle of war, it's hard to always kind of trust either side's numbers on those, because there's they often have a reason to sort of, you know, stretch them or exaggerate them or under exaggerate them. But for sure, it is a lot. And I got a feeling like, even if the Ukrainians do not like the agreement that they might feel is being forced on them right now, I think that within a year or 2 or 3, especially if the war stops, a lot of them are going to be happy that they were sort of brought to the table kicking and screaming.
Yeah, I wonder if they even remember, because 3 years, it's like, you know, when we spend 2 years in lockdown, do you even remember what it is not to be? So do they even remember after 3 years?
A lot happens in 3 years.
So do they even remember, right? Because I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's play the first video. I'm telling you right now, guys, it's a longer one. I think it's 7 minutes long, but the 2 women on that panel are doing an incredible job at just explaining what's happening, what happened, what the actual treaty is highlighting, because it's very, like, the video, I'm very impressed. I don't know who those 2 women are, but they did a really good job at explaining it. So let's start.
Yeah, well, I think that's what a lot of. Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think that's what a lot of people kind of need is, even if you're somewhat versed in the war, like the very specifics of exactly what's going on. I think it'd be nice to have it sort of spelled out.
And they're not just saying, oh, they're talking about a ceasefire. No, they're actually explaining what the demands of the Russians are. Hey, Prairie, what's going on? They're actually explaining what the demands are. So they did a really good job at explaining it. So let's play the video.
Russia's president says he agrees with the 30-day proposal to stop fighting in Ukraine, but says any ceasefire should lead to long-term peace. Vladimir Putin says while he supports a ceasefire, further negotiations are needed, and that includes talks with US President Donald Trump. Well, let's speak to Dorsa Jabari, who's in Moscow for us. Dorsa, Moscow saying the proposed ceasefire deal then is a possibility, but that there's detail that they need to iron out. Is that right?
Yes, that is what the Russian President Vladimir Putin was just saying during a press conference after meeting with the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. According to Putin, he's in favor of a temporary ceasefire only if it leads to a permanent one. And there are nuances that need to be worked out. There are a few issues Putin highlighted. One, that this is not going to be used as an opportunity for Ukraine to rearm and regroup and have another forced mobilization and then restart the fighting. That's one of the things Russia's looking for in terms of guarantees. This is something they will address with the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who is in Moscow at the moment. The other issue that Russia has, and they are going to raise it with the Americans, is the issue of how to monitor this ceasefire in terms of who is going to monitor it to make sure it is not violated. And Vladimir Putin said that the situation on the ground in the combat zones, the 2,000-kilometer front lines, is rapidly changing. He's highlighting the fact that Russian forces are making advances not only in eastern Ukraine, but also in the western part of Russia and the Kursk region after Ukrainians launched a surprise incursion in that region in August of last year. And since then, the Russian forces have managed to retake nearly 90% of the territory that Ukraine occupied until recently. There is about 5 settlements left, or about 200 square kilometers that Ukrainians still occupy, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So these are the issues that Vladimir Putin highlighted. He also thanked Donald Trump for his efforts to try and bring an end to this conflict. And he said that he's going to speak with the U.S. president soon to pass on his concerns and questions that continue at this point. But for the time being, making it clear that Russia is in favor of ending this conflict, but it has to be clearly on their terms.
Yeah.
So before we continue, like up to now, what do you think? Right? It's
so far it seems
Russia.
pretty reasonable. I mean, you know, like there's nothing that I know the Trump haters are gonna look for something to tear down, but to me, this just seems like pretty standard diplomacy, right? You talk to both sides, you bring them to the table.
I agree. I just wanted to stop this to take a comment from Joe Stradamus. I think there's a misunderstanding here. He says that pretty sure that people remember being invaded by a hostile foreigner power. You're kind of missing my point. I'm saying, do they remember what it's not like to be at war? That's what I meant to say. No shit, they remember. They just need to fucking look outside their window and clearly they can see what's going on. What I meant is after 3 years of war, do they even remember what it is to not be at war? That's what
it's kind of, you use the COVID example. Remember, by the time it was over, it was hard to remember a time before lockdowns, right?
Agreed. T is saying, what's up? What's up, T?
Yeah. What's up, man?
Carnage, Hunger Games are here. Hey, I remember you.
Yeah.
Putin just doesn't trust NATO mongers, and it needs to be ironclad. You know, man, I like that you're saying this because a lot of people don't know history or haven't looked at history. And at the beginning of the 90s, Gorbachev had made a deal with NATO, the ex-president of the USSR. I think he was the last president or leader, however they called him. So he was the last president of the USSR. And when they dissolved some of those countries like Belarus and Ukraine, they had made a deal with NATO that NATO will never advance to those countries, that they will keep it as a buffer zone between the two empires so that Eastern Europe doesn't have a military army sitting at the border of Russia staring at each other, right? Like they do in North and South Korea. So you're absolutely right that if I was in Putin's place, I wouldn't trust NATO either, because we've been going after the Ukraine. And if I'm not mistaken, he repeats it like it is mentioned again in the video. Like they will say that it is part of the deal, if I'm not mistaken.
So, I think you're right. I think, like, I personally wouldn't necessarily use the term warmonger for NATO, but I understand what carnage means there, and I don't think it's entirely off the wall or absurd or anything. I think, we've talked about this a little bit. Like, what exactly does NATO do? Like, why do we need them? Because there was a very clear point to them during the Cold War. And if you're Russia, this is the group. Remember, it wasn't that long ago. Putin grew up. He was a KGB agent during the Cold War. So his whole life, NATO was the absolute enemy. And so, when he sees them, you can't just think like from our side, like, oh, well, NATO's peaceful and NATO's not going to do anything wrong. You also have to think about it from the side of the guy with the second largest nuclear arsenal in the world, right? If he sees NATO, who has been his enemy his entire life, coming closer and closer, country by country, whether you agree with it or not, you might want to think like, is this wise? Is this a wise course of action? And I think NATO needs to do not even NATO, the West, because you can never expect a large bureaucracy, and that is what NATO has become, a military bureaucracy. You can't ever expect them to sort of make decisions about themselves. Bureaucracies will always protect themselves. So us in the West, the members of NATO, perhaps it's time to have a conversation about what exactly the mission is. Because if you have a tool, you know what the saying, to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you've got a military tool out there with no clear mission, it's gonna get used one way or the other, and that's not necessarily the best use of something like that.
I would love to see Trump just say, "Screw NATO. We're taking all our money out, and we're done. We're not going to be your foot soldier. We're not going to be the foot soldier of NATO anymore." That's what I would love to see.
Yeah, no, and I think that's pretty common on the right, and I'd like to hear the audience, if you're on the right, how you feel about NATO, and also on the left. I know Joe is on the left. I wouldn't say, as for me, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily saying, yeah, we should definitely get rid of them, but I'm definitely at the point where I want to see them justify their existence. And if they cannot, in a plausible, reasonable way, and to be frank, I can't imagine a case that could be made that would convince me, but I'll give them the benefit of that doubt. But if you can't, then I see no reason. It's crazy because the left will freak out about NATO as if like if you want to get rid of NATO, you are somehow chipping away at democracy itself. And it's like, where does that come from? It's a military alliance, and the main reason for that military alliance no longer exists. So it's entirely reasonable to ask ourselves if this is a wise use of our assets.
All I'm saying is, if Trump backs out, NATO's pretty much done.
Yep.
So that's my point, right?
Cool.
You don't even need to say, I want to dismantle it. I'm just step out and just let shit happen by itself. So
yeah, like the pro NATO-ists, like, now's the time to make your case for why this should exist, because I am not at all convinced that it should. And there's a whole lot of other people who are even much further, sort of in your boat, who they just want to see it gone. And the longer you go without justifying yourself, the more people are going to shift over that way.
Agreed. I absolutely agree with you, man. Let's take, man. Prairie saying seems reasonable to me so far. Agreed. I wouldn't trust NATO either, says Prairie. Agreed. Yes, he said it a few times, probably referring to how he wants NATO to never consider Ukraine, to not go after them anymore.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah. Imagine if China had enveloped Canada in a military alliance. How would America feel about that, right?
Well, some people would argue that
it's happening
that they already invaded through spies and stuff. So maybe it's not that far-fetched, bro.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So Prairie is saying we investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoings. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Steven is saying, hey, what's going on, Steven? Steven is saying, if he ends the war, how will they spin it into Orange Men is bad?
Oh, he capitulated to Russia. That's
true. Yeah.
That's how
he is.
He gave them away to Russia. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians could be loving it. They could be, working. They'd be making billions from the mineral wealth of this deal. But none of that will matter.
Actually, it's not even billions; it's trillions, bro.
Yeah,
like it's a different fucking class in itself.
Yeah,
Jostrajamus is saying
that's a great point,
standing armies in the absence of a foreign enemy always turns in their own population. Yeah, of course, they always turn on their own populations. Of course, this is the problem with both NATO and our own metastatic
military industrial complex
of 100%. Yep, you're 100%.
That's a great point.
And not only that, but they're out of control. They're out of control when it comes to spending. Like, just look at all the money that's spent or that is lost every year by the Pentagon that just disappears in black projects.
I mean, does anyone think
Doge wants to save $2 trillion over the span of a year or 2 years? Look at a Pentagon. They lose more than that every year, bro.
Yeah, and does anyone think that the Pentagon's really paying $40,000 for a hammer, or $100,000 for a toilet? Like, there's a lot of ways you can make a lot of money disappear in go into the black hole that is the Pentagon.
Fuck, I'm an idiot. Metastatic, as in the cancer. My brain went full retard. Thanks, Joe. Thanks a lot, man.
No worries. I actually, when you said that word, I thought it meant like static as in not moving, like
No,
non-dynamic. But
metastatic,
yeah,
as in
that's
when the cancer spreads throughout the body.
metastasizing.
Exactly.
Yep.
This is how
Well,
my brain
yeah,
is. It's
Joe.
Friday, okay? But thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
You're such a nice guy, but you're making me feel like an ass. Thanks a lot, bro. Much
But
appreciated.
just to add on to this comment here, I think that's a great comment by Joe, and it's exactly what I meant when I said, to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Like things, especially bureaucracies, they need to justify their existence, and that's extremely dangerous when it's military bureaucracy with military power, because if there is not an enemy out there, they will create one. And I mean, to me, and Joe's a leftist, I believe, just based on his comments. And to me, this should be a left-wing position. The left, it should be the left that's very critical of NATO. And in fact, it seems like it's the right who's most critical of NATO, whereas the left is just, because anything that Trump does has to be opposed. Trump could say, I love babies, and the left will say, we hate babies. Like it's insane. It's nonsense.
Yeah. And yes, Joe, that's exactly how I feel. Friday. Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We'll just take a few before we continue the video, because we're basically halfway through. But not to mention, Steve is saying that not to mention is becoming an obnoxious force that increases tension. That's all NATO does to me, is just like that asshole that keeps on poking people, and then as soon as they're going to react,
he runs away. Yeah. Everyone knows that guy.
NATO is to me. Yeah,
everyone knows that guy.
NATO.
And the point is, it's not like even if you're like, you want a strong military or whatnot, it's not like all the assets that are under NATO right now will disappear. They'll just go back to their own countries. Like America will still have the same amount of military power.
100%.
You're not you're just dismantling an extra layer of bureaucracy.
Agreed. And Stephen is saying that it incentivizes war over peace while claiming to do the opposite. Exactly what I'm saying. Like, let's just poke Russia, see what happens. Like, let's poke the Russian bear and see how much it's going to take for us to piss it off.
To be honest, even as we're having this discussion, I feel like I'm shifting to that other, get rid of it, man. Like, there's nothing they can just,
You're welcome, bro. You're welcome.
I never really thought about it that much, but
we should have called this show, instead of the Political Orphans, we should have called it Turning a Lefty to the Right, or something along those lines. Like findings.
Conversion therapy. Left-wing conversion therapy. I'll never. I do get that a lot. Like, what? Are you sure you're not a righty? And it's like, no. I mean, too many of my positions on things like abortion. I'm far more pro. I don't hate guns by any stretch. I think they're valuable tools, but I don't think my opinions on guns would sit well with the right. If I were an American, I'd be fucking armed as shit. I'm not necessarily sure.
But hold on. I'm not saying you're a righty. Like, when I consider myself a righty, I'm a right of center. I am not on the right side of the equation. I'm just right of center, because you're just left of center. But the more we talk, the more it seems like you're see the line that's right there. It seems like you are very close to that line now. It's like,
I would say I'm a moderate left.
You're doing that from your side. You're kind of penetrating the line.
Yeah.
Other side, numbskull. Other side. Hey. Exactly. Even Joe thinks it's funny.
But
let's finish the video, because or else I'll never fucking.
That's right.
Also, definitely the Russian president seeming concerned about the detail of this potential 30-day ceasefire plan. And you mentioned there that he said, the Russian president said that he expects in the next couple of days to have a phone call with Donald Trump. Do you think that Donald Trump is pivotal to this moving forward?
Absolutely. Well, this is, first of all, a U.S. proposal, a 30-day U.S. peace plan that they've put forth, which the Ukrainians have accepted. So they are key in making it all happen. And of course, there is nobody that has more at stake in seeing this happen than Donald Trump. He has been promising, it was a campaign promise prior to the election. And since then, he has made it his mission to bring an end to this conflict. He calls it a brutal war that needs to end. So certainly there's there's a lot at stake for Donald Trump, not only in terms of his relationship with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky, but also domestically. It is a promise he has made and he needs to deliver. But also the Russians understand that they have the upper hand at the moment on the ground. They've made gains in eastern Ukraine as well as in the Kursk region. And also Russia has now been on a wartime footing in terms of the country's economy and withstanding unprecedented amount of sanctions. Since they launched the invasion into Ukraine in February of 2022, Russia has become the world's most sanctioned country. Over 20,000 sanctions have been placed on Russia. So they have managed to survive that throughout the past 3 years. But certainly they are viewing the conflict in the long term. And this deal proposed by the U.S. is certainly a welcome reprieve for them, but they see it as an opportunity to get what they need in order to have a long-term settlement in the conflict with Ukraine, because they're adamant that their demands have to be met. And those include Ukraine dropping their desire to become part of NATO, that the Russians don't want any foreign troops on the ground in Ukraine. They want to keep 20% territory of Ukraine that they have seized since they started the war in 2022. There are 4 regions of Ukraine that Russia has annexed, including Kherson, Zaporizhia, Lugansk, and Donetsk, and they want those recognized as part of Russia. And that's not including Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014. So Vladimir Putin has a rare opportunity here, if he plays his cards right, according to analysts here, to get what he needs in order to sell this conflict that has been going on for 3 years to the Russian public as a win, as a victory. So this is going to be very important. I think the next few days are going to be critical. We understand Steve Witkoff is going to be staying in Moscow through Friday, so the discussions will continue.
The video is pretty much done at this point, but 20% they want to make sure that Ukraine never joins NATO, which to me it makes sense.
Reasonable.
They want to keep 20% of the country they invaded. That one is probably going to be a hard pill to swallow, although
a lot of those are Russian-speaking areas, I do believe.
That's what I was going to say. If you look at the east of Ukraine that connects with Russia, they are still considering a vast majority of that population is still considering themselves to be Russian. So is it that big of a deal to them or not? I don't know. As Zelensky, I see it as being a big deal. But at the same time, we're always, as when I say we, not me, but people are always praising how Zelensky is such a great leader and blah, 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 blah. Like everybody's funneling with his balls all over the world. And, I would like to see him run an election. I would like to see him stop stopping an election, stop preventing having political parties talking about you, put a real media out there, or at least another form of media that is not controlled by the government. I'd love for the people to be able to run a poll to say, do you want to be part of Ukraine? Do you want to be part of Russia? Because that's the thing, man. We don't know what that must be here, because we're just like, we're Canadians, we're Americans, right? But it's like, man,
those are deep seated identities.
You're talking guys our age, right? In our 40s. We could remember what it was to be Russian. Like, we're old enough to know what it was to be considered Russian.
Oh, do you mean Soviets?
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you look at Ukraine, you look at Belarus, for example, they're old enough, like people our age, they're old enough,
Soviets
80s and the 70s. But that's my point. But even that, like, I was born in 82, and that happened at the beginning of the 90s. So I must have been like 10 years old. Imagine if I was in the 70s, right? I would remember what it was to be a teenager under the USSR and be part of the USSR. It wasn't like today you have that's the thing, right? What was it? We're closer to 2050 than we are to 1982.
Yeah.
When you think about
that's crazy. That's crazy.
I saw that
I will make you feel old.
I saw that on the internet the other day. I'm like, what? Oh shit.
So I mean, I think when we first started talking about this back probably the first week of the show, maybe a month or so ago, I think we were kind of like, we're just a couple of dumb guys. What the fuck do we know? But it seems like what the solution would be ceasefire now, have bring an international observer force to actually run a referendum or ballots in those contested areas and let the people decide where they want to go. That to me seems like the best all-around option. Get both sides to agree with it. The international community knows how to run elections in war zones. They did it in Iraq during the Iraq War, right? There's ways you can do it. It's almost like, do you remember the argument? Remember when we talked about the story about Solomon from the Bible and who's obviously known for his wisdom. And the story was 2 women came to him and they had a baby and they both claimed ownership of the baby. And Solomon said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Split it down the middle. I'll give you half a baby and you half a baby. And one woman said, no, let's do that. Great idea, Solomon. And the other said, no, please just give it to her. Solomon knew who the real mother was. I feel like when, in the same kind of way, if you have this option of running elections down the middle and letting people pick, whoever's the one who says, no, I don't want to do that, that's the one who probably knows it's going to go against them, And to me, it almost seems like that's Zelensky right now. I don't know enough about the area and like the deep ethnic divides to really have a firm opinion. But one thing is for sure, and this is just the way power works, you need to give Putin a way to declare some sort of victory. That's just how power works. You know what I mean? If you can't do that, then kiss peace goodbye, because that's just how power works and powerful men work.
But at the same time, man, Zelensky doesn't have a choice because
he doesn't have a
NATO's
choice.
Not
Don't
like,
matter
at
what
this
he
point.
says.
Like, let's be honest and be real about this. Zelensky does not have the money to continue fighting Russia.
No,
without the U.S.
No,
and the U.S. will not encourage them to fight Russia. So at this point, the U.S. and I think it was brilliant by Trump to say it's time you repay us. So he started talking about this before the peace deal because he knew that if he put soldiers, and it was said, like I should have kept the articles, but I read some articles saying that as part of the mineral deal, they will use some of the military bases that are in the area of the Ukraine in order to fast track the extraction or the treatment. Exactly, the processing of those rare minerals. So it was brilliant. When you think about it, it was brilliant by Trump. Love him or not, the dude is just coming in there and he's gonna reap such advantage from what's happening. But the fact that he decided to speak to both, but at the end, Zelensky doesn't have a lot. He's not holding any cards right now outside of, do you want to continue being at war with Russia without the U.S. backing you or without NATO backing you and continue turning your country into rumble? Or are you ready now to give him what he wants? Because you're not going to get it back either way. You don't have the power to get it back. But do you want to be at war or not? If you don't want to be at war, here are the terms, and I don't think he has a choice to accept them.
No, I think it's a time to start asking the very valid question: is Zelensky now, is he getting in the way of a peace process? Does he maybe need to go? No. Because even 100%. If let's just say for devil's advocate, let's say me and you believe that Zelensky's the best leader ever and he's a true hero for his people. Let's just say we believe that. We don't, but let's say we believe it. You also have to understand there are wartime leaders and there are not. And sometimes the wartime leaders are not the ones that are going to give you peace because they are wartime. Like, look at Winston Churchill. He got the UK through World War II. He was beloved by the UK people, and he ran in an election immediately after the war and got his ass kicked because he was a wartime leader and people didn't want that. They knew that was not the right leader for the peace. So maybe it's time to have that conversation.
I'm putting my conspiracy hat on because
let's hear it.
you saying I like Zelensky is a conspiracy. So that's why I put it on. Just so people know that is bullshit. But but you're absolutely right. It's just at this, but it's a very, very good point because at this point, do we really need Zelensky anymore? Because I don't think
What did
I
you bring
don't
to the
think-
table?
And not only that, but before I go through all because we have a bunch of comments, but I just want to highlight this one from Jason because of what he's saying. Jason is saying that Zelensky ran and won his election on the platform of making peace with Russia. He failed, and any election he has, he will lose. And that's basically our point, right? I completely agree. Just to go back to what Joe Stradamus was saying earlier, I think a lot of our ideas about left and right are media generated. 100%. But and I would go even further than that. I think not only are they media generated, but the people themselves don't really question it either because they're so stuck to their own version of the media. They're not like me, for example, that visits 10, 15, 20, that has 4 or 5 different newsletter hitting me every day, that has news aggregator. I'm really looking at everything, but most people don't. And if you understand marketing, you understand how they clickbait you into believing what they're saying. You don't just read the top of the article, the title, or the email. Click on it and you start looking at what they're saying. There's not that much difference between.
Oh yeah, a lot of times.
There's tiny emotion spins on the article itself, but if you pass the title, you're like, yeah, okay, you guys are.
They want you to just read the title.
Of course. That's how they get you. So
yeah,
absolutely.
and I think Joe's right. I think that's kind of the basic premise of this whole show. That the whole old right/left dichotomy is not necessarily the best way to look at politics anymore. There's definitely been enough shifting over the last couple of years that those labels don't really fit so neatly anymore.
No, I agree, man. Completely agree. But it's good to have Joe, because the first time Joe was on here, we kind of got into it, him and I. But he kept on coming and but it's coming back. It's true. But he keeps coming back, so I like where he's coming from. So
he's the most. Him and Jason, I guess, are the two obvious lefty regulars that we have. Yeah. It's nice to have that mix.
What are you saying? That Prairie's not a lefty? What?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's right. And Steven, I think, is pretty right as well. Or at least maybe not far right or whatever, but definitely right.
Somewhere in the middle. So Perry's saying it's been a lot longer than 3 years. It's probably referring to the war between Ukraine and Russia. Yeah, obviously. People voted to go with Russia. You know what? I would love to see it today because I think that's pretty much what would happen too.
I think so.
Zelensky is a corrupt tyrant, says Prairie. I did it the other day. I did the exercise of going to check the definition of a tyrant. I put it on one of my screen, and then I went to look at the history of what Zelensky has been doing for 3 years. And you know what happened? He matches the definition of a tyrant. Like he is a tyrant, plain and simple by definition. So you know what, Prairie, is very hard for me to disagree with you.
It's that isn't necessarily.
I have to go download some sounds like ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
To put some sound in my mixer.
Do you have do you want to just play one or two and see if they can hear it?
Oh yeah, guys, can you confirm? Because I downloaded a new software for my microphone and it comes with some cool stuff. Can you guys hear this?
The classic talk show.
Hold on.
So gonna come in.
Can you guys confirm? Because if this is working for you guys, I will download a bunch, because there's a bunch of times we say something that I'd love. Instead of making the noise with my mouth, I will just play it off the board. So, but I think she's bang on this one. This one would deserve it. Ding 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 ding. Like,
and it's funny because
winner chicken dinner.
Yeah, like that wasn't that's not necessarily like the words I would use, or like when I first read that statement, like now. But then, like you said, when you think about the actual definition of a tyrant, a strong case can be made.
And that's exactly my point, right? It's really, do people consider him a tyrant? No, but
probably
if you have the time, go see what he's done over the past 3 years and what he's done to his opposition. And then look at the definition of a tyrant,
elections.
And then it's like the definition of the tyrant is written by leftist origin. I'm looking at leftist sources. I'm not going to go check a right source. I'm going to look at a left, and you're like, call a spade, man. Mm-hmm. So Stephen is saying that the globalists are crumbling. I don't count out an act of desperation from them to perpetuate their stated purpose. You know, bro, just look in Canada, man. The next thing I want to talk about is pretty much going to prove your point about what's going on. And man, the more and more, so if you look at the question, I totally forgot. I didn't even ask the question of the day. Where it's not like we're only 40 minutes in or anything, but I didn't even ask the question of the day. And you know, it's going to run right at the bottom right now. But basically, the question I wanted to ask you guys is, do you think that Canada's on the path to become hated by the US? And not just the US, but a lot of parts in the world. And you'll understand why I'm saying this, because of the next topic I want to talk about. This to me is it's at a point where, remember, it connects with the USAID. You know, the video we played a couple of weeks ago when they were in Congress, where there was a hearing and people were finding out which terrorist organization was getting funded.
Taliban getting 40 million a week. Crazy.
By USAID. The next video is kind of the next slash accounts that I have to show, and the video afterwards for the people that don't know what's going on in Syria right now. It kind of blew my mind when I see those posts. I make news posts all the time, so I can write whatever the fuck I want in the title and put a picture of anything I want on the post. That does not make it real, right? So I tend to see those and just say, let me research it. So I had saved one yesterday, looked at it this morning, did some research on it. They were talking about Syria.
So I'm interested to see these videos, but just before we see them, I would say my immediate take on that is I don't think that's the case right now. I don't think the public hates each other, and I think people who have any platform, including us, have a right to, or an obligation to do our best to make sure that doesn't happen, to try to separate some of the issues going on now from the people, because and that's why we push so hard back on Doug Ford talking about cutting power to elderly Americans in the middle of winter. You know, that's all that, like, all you need is one dead American and you've probably got half the country hating you now, right? As Canadians, we do not want Americans to personally hate us. That is not, and not just for our own interests, but it is just, we have such a shared history. We fought in wars together. We've died together. We are family, I believe. And the politicians are going to do what the politicians do. But I think it's in our interest to make sure that we separate that from the people. And I think as of now, I do think most Americans and most Canadians do separate whatever the politicians are doing from personal feelings.
I can only talk for Americans because I'm down south right now as a Canadian. I can only talk from here.
Yeah, what's your observation?
Oh, man, how many times have I been told by people down south, and I'm in Alabama, right? For the people that don't know, so I'm down south. And people are just like, bro, you need to become an American. Like you are. We need guys like you. You're probably more patriotic than most of us. And they're not wrong. So, it's one of those situations that I can only speak from here. I'll be back in Canada in like 2 weeks now. I'm coming back soon. But from what I see from the videos, from the comments that I see online, Canada is blaming the US for a lot of our problems. But if you look, I'm very strong on the way I formulate my words. So sometimes you'll see me stop or go back to what I said. I said on the path. As you see, the question is, do you think that Canada is on the path to become hated by the US? Like, it's kind of a trick question, as in I'm implying that it doesn't need to get there. This is kind of what I'm implying. But if
the direction we're going,
are we on that path? Because to me, I am kind of worried about what I'm seeing from Canada. My wife and I are so worried about where Canada is heading. We don't want to go back. It's just that our visa is done in the US. We only do 6 months, right? But we can't stay here even if we wanted to. But we're at a point where, like, do we get back to Canada, apply for a permanent visa in the US right away? Because I think that's what she wants to do.
Yep.
We could also go to Italy. But one thing's for sure is that we're very worried about staying in Canada. Like, we do not like the direction that it's in. And the fact that Carney, I was just looking, Carney was just installed, because in my opinion, this is the proper term. He was not elected. He is an unelected prime minister. He didn't even win a riding. Like nobody at least Trudeau, people in Papineau in Quebec voted for him, so he was an MP. He was actually an MP. And as far as I know, you need to be an MP in order to be voted as prime minister. But because the other guy stepped down, like it's a massive loophole that he's able to step down and not
And
even
then become
somebody that's elected. I did not know that this election is teaching me so much about our election process in Canada and how messed up it actually is. We literally have a globalist banker with ties to the WEF that has never been elected, that does not represent the people, that was chosen by a bunch of corrupt politicians to lead their party, that just became at 11 o'clock this morning, that just became prime minister. He was just sworn in right now.
Just now, eh?
An hour ago, Juno News. I'm looking at the video on my feed.
Basically an hour before we went live. So the thing that for me personally that I worries me about Carney is that he seems to be a lot smarter and more politically astute than Trudeau. And
he was behind Trudeau for years. Like they're super good friends. People say that he was the one telling him what to do, that he was one of his one of the puppeteers.
No, that's what I mean. The policies will be the same, but he's like, for example, he's getting rid of the carbon tax. Now that's a very popular move that Trudeau would not have done. Yeah, but that's my point. That's my point. That will convince people, because my working theory as a progressive, as a liberal, is the left needs to be completely fucking torn burnt to the ground so that we can rebuild. And so that's why it worries me when I see a guy like Carney, who I think has the smarts to convince people to vote liberal again without doing this rebuild that I think needs to happen, because that just will bake in a lot of the problems. It may, that's why it worries me. It may seem counterintuitive that as a liberal, I want to see the liberals lose, but I do, because I think the liberals are going down the wrong path. And they need to lose so that they can somewhere, hopefully someone does a bit of soul searching and says, are we the bad guys here? Are we the ones who are wrong? Because without that, if they win with Carney, they won't have that moment, and they desperately need it, and things will get worse.
Oh, things are going to get worse no matter what. Like Carney's going to win the next election. Like if you just look, I spend a lot of time looking at what Pierre Poilievre is saying and looking at his comments and commenting on his stuff. And I'm telling you, man, there's so many people that reshare my comments on his page. Like I get hundreds and hundreds of them every day. So, man, it's one of those situations that Carney is going to become, it's very similar to what happened with Kamala Harris in the US, where she showed up, she replaced Biden, and then everybody's like, she's going to fix the economy. But hold on, she's been the VP that whole time. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you guys fucking retarded? Like, what's wrong with you? But this is exactly what they did, and right now, this is exactly
now
what
the Americans are smart enough to not.
I don't think it's a thing that they're smart enough. I think it's they have a divide in the politics. Like there are Republicans. There's a clear line between Republicans and Democrats. There's a massive line between what is a conservative and a liberal in the US. In Canada, we don't have that divide. This is my point with Pierre Poilievre. He has confounded that line so much. He's such a leftist that everything we're seeing right now in the news is all from the left. We have nobody, like a guy like Maxime Bernier is called a fucking far right guy, and in the US he'd be a very fucking liberal right guy, like very liberal. Like he still believes in social services. In the US, Republicans, they don't like social services at all. We want to do it bare. So, it's very interesting where we're going, but what bothers me is that people don't seem to wake up to the fact that this guy is going to be even worse than Trudeau, because at least Trudeau lied. He was like, that's why when I was saying that Kamala Harris would be worse than Biden, because she didn't lie. She told you right from the get-go that she was okay with censorship. She was okay with going after your guns. She was okay to continue sending money overseas. Like, she never lied about this. When you look at Trudeau, he lied. He said, I'll never take your guns. Oh, I'll never do this. Oh, I'll never do. Yet he just did it. Carney
Yeah.
comes in guns blazing saying, I'm a globalist. I was on the board of the WEF. I worked for the UK bank in central banking to digitalize central banking. He has no shame. He's proud to be a globalist. He comes in like just guns blazing. Sure, he's going to remove the carbon tax to then add a 25 to 50% tariff on everything that comes from the US. Like that is literally, oh, you know what? Here's your $20 bag, but give me 20 from your other pocket. People are so
Or like
stupid.
40. Give me 40 from your other pocket. Give you 20 back. You give me 40.
I don't have any proof of how much it's going to be yet. So I'm saying that it's going to at least be equal. But what's funny is that people are falling for this shit. Like Canadians are praising that guy like he's a change when he's been behind Trudeau for years. Like this is how ridiculous we've become. It's absolutely ridiculous. Want to take some of those comments?
Yeah. I was just gonna say we've got quite a backlog here.
Put them on the screen, bruh.
Yep. So Steven says Zelensky's image screams astroturfing. The vast majority of Ukrainians who are supporting him are Ukrainians who don't live there. And just in case you're not familiar with the term astroturfing, it means like a fake movement, right? It's the opposite of grassroots movement. Grassroots is like organic, real grass. Astroturfing is rich people who pay people to go out and protest. So that's sort of, and I think that probably fits Zelensky's.
Every
image.
time I hear astroturfing, I think about chia. Do you remember those things when you were young?
Yeah. I had one.
But do you know what I'm saying? Every time I hear astroturfing, that's like, this is grass. Yeah, no, it's not. This is exactly
grass, bro. Grass. Jason says in Crimea, 80% of them agree with Russia. The Azov battalion slaughtered people in the region, burned some alive. Putin's daughter-in-law was there. It was the last straw for Russia. The Azov battalion are like actual Nazis, not like, the kind that the left will say, oh, you don't agree with everything I say, you're a Nazi. Oh, you don't think women can have a penis, well, you're a Nazi. The Azov battalion are actual Nazis. Like, so it isn't always clear. And they have the Azov battalion are, I read into a little bit about them because Jason discussed them. I didn't really know too much. They're essentially an army within the army. They're an army within the Ukrainian army. And so they're kind of fighting for Ukraine, but they also very much have their own interests, and they're outside the chain of command. And I think Jason was telling us that there was a peace agreement on the table 2 or 3 years ago, and Zelensky couldn't take it because the Azov battalion told him not to. They said they would draw him and quarter him. They would essentially kill him if he took it, and they actually probably would. Steven says yes, Joe.
You missed one though. You have to go back up. You missed one. This one right here. But Russian from Carnage Hunger Games are here, but Russian Ukrainians already voted to join back Russia in 2014.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Joe or Prairie was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we've got Jason. The media red baits you into thinking Putin cannot be trusted, but even Obama and Clinton admitted the deals they did behind closed doors. Putin always kept his word. I don't believe this idea that he can't be trusted. He seems like a hard negotiator, but I don't like. He also seems like a genuine statesman. Like, yes, I'm sure he's always got his agenda, and you probably have to really read the fine print with any deal you sign with him. But I don't believe that if he says, I'm not going to do this, that he won't. He's we may not like him, but it's his job to look out for Russia's interests. And there are times when Russian interests are not going to be aligned with Western interests. In fact, many, many, many times. So yeah, the idea that like he can't be trusted, I don't know if I necessarily buy that.
But it's the same way as Trump right now is putting the US first in front of Canada. It's the same way. Does that mean he can't be trusted? Can he be trusted to not put Canada first? Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's what they mean. Putin's not trusted. Putin can't be trusted to align with American interests. Well, yeah, that's not his job.
Have you heard about this? That was last year. I'm going to have to do more research to verify this. But did you know that last year, it was in August last year, President Putin had signed a decree allowing foreigners who oppose neoliberals' ideal in their own countries to seek refuge in Russia, and Canada was one of those places. So if you don't
really?
like Canada, yeah, Russian
Interesting.
Putin would give you an actual visa, a refugee visa.
Master stroke of sort of propaganda for sure. It's a great propaganda win for him. It's on brand for sure.
Well,
Sort of like
he did take
a giant
what was-
troll, a giant troll of the West. He does love
No.
trolling the West for sure.
But what was his name? What was the guy that worked for the CIA? Snowden. That's where
Yeah,
he
yeah.
is. I think
Edward
he's
Snowden,
still
yep.
there right now.
Yep,
I think
he
he's
is.
still there. So after all of this time, a guy that's literally exposing government corruption is still in Russia. So, and as far as I know, he's still alive, unless it's all AI.
No, he
But
is.
as far as I know,
He tweets.
I've never met
see
him.
his tweets. Yeah, no, I haven't either. But
Yeah.
I see his tweets every once in a while. Steven says, "I think we're being set up to be the economic Ukraine by our leaders." That's interesting. And maybe in a follow-up, Steven, like kind of flesh that out a little bit. I'm intrigued in where you're going there, but I'm not quite sure. Do you know what you might be saying there?
Which one was it? The yes,
Sorry,
Joe?
Steven here. He's saying, I think we're being set up to be the economic Ukraine by our leaders. Does that mean sort of the buffer zone between? Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but I'd like to hear what he has to sort of flesh that idea out a little bit.
That probably means that we're going to be dependent on other countries to help us out, because that's where we're going right now.
Yeah,
We're literally
yeah, which
destroying
is
our country.
yeah, no change. It's essentially,
So maybe that's
no
what.
different.
But just explain what you think, Joe. But that's how I see it, and I don't disagree with him.
Yeah. I have a theory that if USA leaves NATO, then NATO will bring war to Canada. I mean, I think if USA leaves NATO, it won't exist anymore.
Same here.
I don't think T. So T is a newcomer. I think we only seen you today. So nice to be part of the show here, T. T says, I don't think the US will hate us, but feel this. So this is to the question of the day, but feel sorry for Canadians. I remember going to Yugoslavia in 1988 when it was all communist and it was clean and beautiful like Canada. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think much of the animosity, my personal experience has not filtered down to the public. I don't think most, even if, Americans agree with what Trump is doing, I don't think they hate us personally. And I think it's good for us to keep it that way. What's your take, Nico?
Like I said earlier, man, this is why the question I formulated it in a way that on the path. Like, I'm not saying that we're there yet, but is it possible that's kind of where we're going? And as I said, anybody that's been listening to the show knows that I spend a lot of time in the US, and a lot of the people absolutely love me down here because I'm a patriot. I love the US. I love the US. I love Canada. I just don't like where the politicians are going, and I don't like where the mind of the people is going. Is it just social media? I'm also very aware that it's always exaggerated on social media, because I traveled coast to coast to coast to the US. Like, we did it twice. We went 23 states. I started to realize that what you see in the media is not true about the US. Like, a lot of people say that people down south are idiots or they're rednecks. Bro, you'd be fucking surprised. Do they have an accent? Yeah, but so do I, right? Everybody has an accent. So doesn't mean they're stupid. I've met greater people down south that I did up north. People care more down here than they do up north. So, don't trust what the media tells you all the time, and visit people for yourself. So I'm going to hold my judgment, but I'm not feeling very good. You always like to talk about your feelings. So I'm going to say it's not a fact. I feel that Canada is not going down the right path right now, but it is a feeling. It's not a fact. I don't have the actual proof for it, because saying that you don't want to join the US doesn't mean you hate the US. It has nothing to do with it. I don't know that Canada should join the US or not. I don't know. I still haven't made my mind, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't personally want to become American. Those are very different things, right?
Yep, that's right. Prairie, I can't believe how this is going down and how Canadians are just accepting this. I'm fuming. I believe she's talking about just sort of what's going on with Carney and just, it seems like he's boosting back up in the polls, and Prairie's kind of like, what the fuck are we doing? I think a lot of people are like that. Steven, the left needs to be demoralized and utterly defeated like in the USA. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. I think, even as a lefty, right, I recognize that we are going down the wrong path in the wrong direction. And we need to essentially get our asses kicked electorally. It just, the whole thing needs to be burned to the ground, and then hopefully some sanity might return, and maybe some sane people might stand up and say, all right, this is how we're going to rebuild. Maybe it's optimistic, maybe it's naive.
Hold on, Stevens. The only thing you need to do, bro, in order to make that happen, go black skin, become a black woman, and that's it. You could change the
black trans woman of color. You will be elevated to the very top,
bro,
the very top of the left.
Just
anything
go to
you
the top,
say, anything you
become
say,
a black woman.
Yeah,
you'll be able to change the left. Maybe that's all we need is a black trans woman. Maybe that's you, bro.
Yes,
I'm just fucking
that's right.
with you, bro.
That's right. Carnage Hunger Games are here. It says carnage equals carnage. We're in big trouble. Libs aren't the liberals of my youth. They've gone too far. Yeah, I agree.
100%.
Prairie saying Polyev is weak, spineless, flip-flopping. Yeah, that's
we should, you know what we should do, bro? That's an idea I'm throwing out there. We should have flip-flops made with Pierre Poilievre's face on it. I would sell like hotcakes.
Actually would work.
I'm just making that shit up right now. That would be funny. Shouldn't have said that online. Whoops.
Steven, I think this is an interesting comment. I think Polyev was there to be the anti-Trudeau candidate, and now that Trudeau's gone, he doesn't serve a purpose anymore. That's a great point. That's definitely something to think about. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's
exactly how I see it. Poilievre's goal was to implement somebody like Carney.
That could be why the polls have completely shifted, because now
just listen to what he's saying. If you remove the face, I could start reading you comments, because right now, go on his feed. All Poilievre is talking about is literally tariff. We'll build some pipelines, and he's attacking Carney. That's all he's doing. He's not even, most of his fucking comments now are about trying to destroy Carney. And you know what that means, right? When all you do is point your finger at other people, that means you're not bringing anything to the table. And that is that's what his feed has become. It's pretty fucking sad. But I agree with him 1,000%. To me, he was a puppet, played his role. And now we really are fucked. We're going to take steps down to communism. Like, we're going to implement a UBI soon enough, and we're just going downhill from here even more.
So Steven says this is a good point too. He's only cutting the consumer carbon tax. The ones on the corporations and energy sector will continue to. So it's still it's sort of like a fake benefits. We're still going to get hit with rising prices across the of course
everything that has to be transported will cost more.
Yep,
that's
that's everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. If it goes into a truck, it's going to cost more.
I guarantee you that if you compare April 1st, let's say he does it on April 1st, that he doesn't put the carbon tax on, to April 1st, 2025, April 1st, 2026, we will pay more taxes because the tariffs are a tax. Don't lie to yourself. Tariffs are a tax. Plain and simple. They're taking money out of your pocket into their pockets.
For sure. And they even said they're going to use the proceeds of that tax to, fund workers, relief programs.
I wish I had a I'm going to find. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Prairie says, hi T, nice to meet you. And again, we love to see that. We love when you guys sort of connect with each other as well. This is a community we're building here, not just a podcast. Jason, in 2018, the Washington Post and New York Times say that the Ukraine has a Nazi problem. 5 years later, they're trying to scrub it from the internet. You can't hide from Nico's research. No, it's like the long arm of the law. You can run, but you can't hide. So it is funny how that changed, right? Because now all of a sudden the narrative has to be that the Ukrainians are the good guys, and that's hard to do when you also say they're having a Nazi problem, because Nazis remain rather unpopular. Bipartisan unpopular. Even the left will use Nazis as an insult.
I like this one. Hold on. That is exactly
Jason, black, immigrant, and lesbian. You'll be press secretary. Yes. Yeah, that's great.
Imagine if you were trans, bro. Trans is presidency. This is caliber of president, especially in Canada.
Yep. We fought the ethnic cleansing in the Bosnian War as a member of the UN, but now we are allowing those same those same sentiments to be applied here in Canada. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't identity politics always leads to that, right? It might start as, supposedly benign, but anytime you start dividing people by race or sex or ethnicity or what have you, all you're doing is creating division, and those divisions fester, and sooner or later something's going to happen. And it's just, the only way to do it is just to the best we can. Of course, you can't eliminate race. Like, we all have eyeballs. We know that there are people of different races, people of different sexes, but it doesn't need to be centered. Our differences do not need to be centered in all of our interactions. And that is what identity politics does. And that's why it's so harmful.
So not only is Carney was sworn in, but Freeland is now the Minister of Transport and International Trade. So she's the fucktard that's going to be responsible for making sure that the provinces can't import and export within each other, because internal trade, that's what it would be, right? And that's what that's what the provinces have been calling forever, to be able to remove the
I didn't even know that was the
between the
thing.
provinces.
Why is there
What do you
any
mean?
red tape between the provinces? Like, why would we need a crisis to remove that? That shouldn't even be there. Why would we have barriers between our provinces? It's crazy. Just bad leadership.
I am learning so much on this election cycle over the past year or so about how mismanaged Canada is as a whole, that you needed a crisis to expose all that crap. Like, there was no way that I would have known if the shit that's happening right now wasn't happening. I would have never dug into it and just researched it. It's insane. It's absolutely insane how Canada is ran. It makes no sense to me. No sense.
I agree. And I think we got through them all. Just the rest is T saying hello, Prairie. Jason welcoming T. So yeah. Oh no, here we come in. One more. Nico, this is what's called the Great Awakening.
The Great Awakening. Well, no, but I was never really asleep. I've been a conspiracy theory for a long time. It's just there's certain subjects that I concentrate on. Now it just turns that it's extremely political based. But I know more about the US, because most of my content's about the US than I do about Canada. So it's me learning about Canada. I'm like, God damn. And this is the perfect segue, I guess, to the next video that, well, hold on. Before I show a video, I want to share a page with you. Just let me load this, because it was announced yesterday that 2 days ago, my apologies. 2 days ago, it was announced that Canada would resume their aid to Syria, which, if you, that's a good fucking question.
Like, what is the, like, why is in big picture, why? What is the benefit to like, how does that serve Canadian interests?
It does not.
No.
Why are we involved in any part of, why are we giving money to Ukraine? Why are we giving money to Palestine? Why are we giving money to Israel? Why are we giving money to everybody out there except helping our own? But see right here. So this, to put it into perspective, this guy, I'm just going to show you who this guy is to show you that it's the sources are legit. That is a former Canadian Minister of Transport. I guess he got replaced by Freeland, but he's the former Canadian Minister of Transport and Member of Parliament for Mississauga Centre, Omar Al-Gabra. Basically, 2 days ago, this man, Omar Al-Gabra, posted this, where, if you can't see what we have on screen right now, it says that today the government of Canada announced several key measures to help the Syrian people build a stable country that respects all of its citizens. $84 million in humanitarian aid, ease economic sanctions,
Oh, Nico, your mic, I don't know if it's muted. Hold on. Are you frozen, or am I frozen? Nico, is that so? You haven't moved here in a little while. Is that you that's frozen, or is that me? Can we get? Okay, so is that Nico that's frozen, and not me? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was me or not. So, guys, is that I actually have no clue if this is me or Nico. I'm gonna jump out and come right back in. Or you got me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I wasn't sure if
I'm gonna have to do something I've been dreading to do because now my laptop went completely, it crashed like blue screen. So to do something I've been dreading to do, I'm gonna have to wipe my fucking laptop and reinstall everything fresh.
Oh no.
I can't deal with having those problems live on camera. There's something wrong going on, so I'll just figure it out over the weekend. So I apologize for the people out there that you had to listen to Rob speak by himself. I know how it is.
Yes,
I had to find a way to dig that in, right?
Yes, of course. Always got to dig.
So
you
basically,
so pick up where you were.
So all I was saying is that we literally have the former transport minister of Canada that is telling us that we are resuming talks with a country. You know what? Let me ask you guys this. Are you guys aware what's going on in Syria right now? Are you aware, Rob, what's going on in Syria right now?
Not really. No, Assad, he was ran out a couple months back or something.
Since December. In December.
Okay. Yeah. And he's out in Russia now. So I don't know who took his place though. Usually when this happens, it's someone who's no better and oftentimes worse. So just right on that, I'd be a little skeptical on are we sure we want to be resuming aid to this group? But I don't know specifically. So yeah, I mean, fill us in.
I do. And I have it right here. Just let me repop my internet my Windows here, but I have it written down. Just give me a second because I jumped right back in. Restore this. Boom. The guy that's in power. So you're talking about Assad's regime. So the leader right now is a man by the HTS, a group that has historical ties to Al Qaeda. So we're talking the provisional president, the provisional leader of Syria used to be part of a group that was part of Al Qaeda, but they split. So that group, I think it was in 2016, they split from Syria, from Al Qaeda, sorry. And the guy that used to be part of Al Qaeda is now running the country. But I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to what's happening in Syria right now, because I'm a Christian, so I tend to watch what's happening.
Oh, you're right. I do. I've heard a little bit about that. Yes.
So there are hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals, of civilians that have been killed over the past week. some were Christians. The vast majority were part of they call it an esoteric part of Islam, which is an interesting thing. I didn't realize that existed, but that makes sense. But I have a video for you, like short video. All the videos I could find were like 20, 30 minutes long. But I got to tell you guys, like, I'm going to show you this video, but it is not a pleasant video. Like, I'm telling you this, like, warning for all the people out there, because it sucks. So I'm just letting you guys know right now.
Now to the intense clashes in Syria that have reportedly killed more than 1,000 people. The violence, a major escalation in the challenge to the new government in Damascus. ABC's Lama Hassan is monitoring those developments, and we have not seen violence like this in a while there, Lama.
You know what? That's not even the right video. That one is too long, because they're going to talk about it, but they're not going to show anything. I wanted to show you the video itself. Where the hell did I put the video? It's always great when my laptop crashes like that. Where did I put that video? Because I thought it was this one.
Okay.
But hold on.
Is it about
the
genocide?
Oh,
yeah, it's the same. It's just that. Just let me forward it, because it's just like, yeah, there you go. So that video will show it, but it just had a better story behind it. I'm just not sure where my video went, but here you go. Right here.
More deaths. The images circulating online are shocking. There's dramatic nighttime videos showing gunmen repeatedly shooting at a building and igniting a fire. Now, the violence erupting on Thursday with fierce fighting between the new government security forces and loyalists of the ousted former President Bashar al-Assad. The fighting then spread with revenge killings for those deaths, and more than 1,000 people have been killed so far. Most of them are civilians. Syria's interim leader Ahmed al-Shara, remember, he took over just 3 months ago after the Assad regime was toppled back in December. He's now calling for national unity and peace. This major escalation of violence is his biggest challenge since taking control. Gio.
All right, Lama, thank you so much.
So I guess this was better than I thought, but the video basically is just showing that there's thousands of people that have died, and they were calling out of just over 1,000 that they were calling right now, because this ain't done yet, right? We'll never know what the exact number is. And if you look at American sources, it's hundreds. If you look at BBC, it's hundreds. If you start looking at news media that is closer to Syria, they're like, it's more than 1,000. And some of the sources I was seeing earlier were above 800 people, civilians, 800 because they're saying, oh, it's a war between the old regime, the people that are still there, and the new forced. Yeah, no, like they were literally saying above 800 civil. So they're calling about 1,000, just over 1,000 people died. 800 of them, more than 800 are civilians. When there's 80%, there's 80% of the people dying are civilians that have nothing to do with this. This ain't a fucking war between the old regime and the new one. There's a net. I want to find because there's a name for the people that are getting killed right now, like the esoteric Muslim community. Like, I'm going to find who it is, who they are. They have a weird name.
The ones being killed? It's not a Christian community, is it?
There are Christians, because you know, people, as much as I'm a Christian, I don't trust what other Christians are saying. A lot of Christians are saying, oh, Christians are being killed in that region. I went, and all I could see is like 4 of them. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm not saying 4 is nothing. That's not what I'm saying. But the vast majority of those 800 people that are getting killed are what we call Alawiti. I'm not sure how to pronounce it because I am Muslim, so I probably don't say it properly. And just to give you guys a quick understanding of it, Alawites, or Alawiz, are an Arab ethno-religious group who lives primarily in the Levant region, which is on the west of Syria, where those attacks are taking place right now. And from what I could find, they're very esoteric. Yeah, exactly. So they're member of a minority esoteric sect of Islam living chiefly in Syria. So basically, most of the people that are dying are from that tribe. So
Okay.
is it an ethnic cleansing? Because you know that Al-Qaeda are not moderate
No.
Islamists. Like, let's be honest here. And I
No.
know esoteric, I've studied a lot of esoteric terms, like especially Bible esoteric and other old religion that are esoteric, but they believe in a God, but not in the way that we do. Like, they believe in a God, not in a spiritual way, like that you can contact him, that like you're able to contact. Either way, it's very different from traditional biblical religion or traditional Islam religion. So to have a group that used to be part of, to have the leader of the country that was part of the group called HTS, or that is part of HTS, that broke apart from Al-Qaeda, something in 2016 or 2018, that's running the country. And now you have an esoteric minority, a minority sect of Islam that's getting butchered, because that's what it looks like. Like, you call it what you want. Everything I could find is like there are 800 or more civilians out of 1,000, and they're in a part where they reside. So is it a coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences. I really don't.
I guess at the end of the day is even, it sounds like a pretty complex situation, and it's probably hard to tell unless you're there. But is this a country that we really want to be giving money to? Is this?
Oh yeah, right. That was the whole point. Huh?
Yeah. Do we do we want to be giving however many $40 million? Like they'll slap. Oh no,
82,
but it's
82 million.
Okay, and they'll be like, oh, but don't worry, it's for supporting democracy. Like, okay, that might be what they say they're going to use it for, but the second they get it, I guarantee you, it's not going to go support democracy.
Don't remember what USAID found, that the USAID was giving 40 million a week to Taliban. To the Taliban. So this is the same thing. So we're literally funding a guy that is running a country after kicking out the person that was there. I'm not saying he was right. I'm not saying he was wrong. I don't know enough about that part of the world, but, and I don't, again, I've said this before, this is going to be harsh. I don't really give a fuck. It's not my problem. I'm just talking about this because our government is still giving our fucking money away to other countries. But now they're not just trying, to the Ukraine, you can sell it to people that maybe Zelensky's right and he's fighting the giant Russian bear. But in this case, how the fuck can you explain that we are funding by the cost of $84 million a guy that took over a country that used to be part of Al-Qaeda? How the fuck do you explain this shit? This is my point, right?
And I think it leads to a bigger point that we've talked about a lot is, what Doge is doing. I mean, there should be a Canadian one too, right? Like we're doing a lot of the same things that the Americans are doing, and we're funding a lot of these things all over the world. And I think it's time for us here in Canada to be taking a hard look at what we're spending our money on, because that is our money, right? That is Canadian taxpayer money, and we have a right to know what it's going towards, and we have a right to say no. I don't want to support this group or this person, regardless of how you want to dress it up. Jason here says,
it's insane, but it's absolutely insane. In a world where we're supposedly in a tariff war with the US, we're okay with giving that much money. This is what blows my mind. So the media is trying to sell us right now that we're at a war, we're coming to a recession, that the Canada is going to fucking end if we don't put dollar-to-dollar tariff, but we're still okay with signing an $84 million. This was not announced 4 fucking months ago. Literally, this was announced 2 days ago. And the only reason I know is because I follow a lot of the news, because this ain't in the fucking media, guys. You're not going to see that on mainstream media. Nobody's going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. That's why you have to come here to see that type of shit. But it's insane. It's absolutely insane that this is okay and nobody's talking about this. It's insane.
Well, I mean, that's why we're talking about it. Hopefully we'll get people, and it's not even like, yes, I agree, like this one issue, this is ridiculous, but I think the point is just to raise awareness that this kind of stuff is going on, and we need to be, we need to have our Canadian Doge or whatever you don't have to call it Doge. Just the point of it's probably time we had someone go through, like a separate sort of outsider group to go through and look at all the dollars that we're spending.
Couldn't agree with you more, man. We've spoken about this before, and I don't see how anybody can say no to this. You know, if you're not okay with a third-party entity to review everything the government's doing with our tax money, that means you're part of the problem. That means there's some reason that you don't want to be. You've done something wrong in the past. You're getting kickbacks, whatever it might be. You don't want to get exposed. This is what you're telling me. Okay, you can argue who's the best. Is Elon Musk the best person to run it? Arguably, who knows? You had to pick someone to do it. No matter what, you had to pick someone to do it. But don't tell me that you're not okay with the idea. If you're not okay with the idea, you're part of the problem.
Yep, that's right.
I wanted to see that. I wanted to show this video because this popped on my feed yesterday, and I got to tell you, this kind of proves the point. You know, we've been talking this week about Mahmoud Khalil. It's not an update on him. It's not an update on what's going on. But you know, yesterday I was saying, and I'm so happy Jason's here. Hey, one of the things that I'm really looking forward to this case is to set a precedent. And the reason I want to set a precedent is, as I said yesterday, I want to stop foreigners that are guests in other people's countries from misbehaving and getting away with it. As in, like I said, I visit the US all the time. I do not break the law. I respect their law. This is, as a guest, this is the least I can do for them accepting me in their country, right? Now, the same should be true from people coming from other countries. If you're coming to the US, if you come into Canada, you should have to pay respect to our custom. You should have to respect the law. You can't break the law. But I found this video yesterday that is very interesting. It's a Free Palestine movement, a Free Palestine small protest in New York. I just want to show you what's happening and then show you what didn't happen, and then you can tell me if what we should do with those people. So let me play this. It's not a long video, but I'll have to fuck you. Fuck you. Hold on, the other one's still there. Yeah, remove that. Cool. Yeah, there we go. So there we have the video. You dumb bitch. Fuck you. Fuck you. You scared now? What happened? It's about fucking dumb bitch. Stupid. Fuck you. Fuck you. Stupid, yeah, triangle, Hamas. I love Hamas, yeah. Yeah. Stupid, open your window, dummy. Open your window, now you're scared.
Lovely people.
Bro, if you're here for them, stay with them. If you're here for the protest, go to the protest.
So, you guys saw that, right? You have a bunch of protesters, mostly masked people, that are spitting on the car of that woman. I imagine it's a woman. We don't see her very well because people are hiding it, but they're screaming at her. And once again, let me point out the camera right here, bro. Just so you guys know, I own that microphone. That's $100 microphone. Just that.
Oh yeah.
That optic there is a few grand. That's a camera that's better than mine and mine.
So these are professionals, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. Those are the type of cameras that this is similar to what I have here, but I don't have the same optic on it because I definitely don't need it for this. But this is a few $1,000s right there that he seems like a kid that's holding this. So we're not talking about just regular people with their cell phones, although there are people on their cell phones. There's a guy with a camera there and there's a guy on the other camera. But what I want to point out is, oh shit, I didn't even notice that when I looked at it the first time. See, that's a police officer right there. If you look in the background, police officer.
Yep. So there,
but you do realize that this guy right here, see, there's a guy dressed in blue that looks like a security agent that just shows up. And
yeah, I was wondering what his deal was. Who is that? Is that NYPD?
That is. Yes, sir. I did the research, and you'll see. I'll show it, but let me replay what happened because you hear him speak in the video.
Bro, if you're here for them, stay with them. If you're here for the protest, go to the protest.
If you're with them, be with them. If you're part of the protest, go to the protest. So basically, and just so you guys, because I don't want you guys to believe me, I want you guys to so right here you can clearly see NYPD.
He's got an NYPD hat on. Yeah.
And I was able to find multiple pictures online of NYPD agents NYPD officers dressed like this. But here, you can't see it on the screen, but on my laptop, I zoomed in. It says City of New York right there. It's police.
Yeah.
So that guy is, and you see he's wearing the camera too. Now, the thing that when I saw this video, there's a couple of things that I found problematic. Because one, you have the you see the other guy with the camera on the other side. Do you see it?
Yep.
So that is another optic that's at least $2,000. That size of optic, depending on the quality, you don't get optic like that for below $2,000. So right then and there, you have two guys somehow are there with professional cameras recording this. So here's one of the things that I wanted to point out. If you saw multiple of them spat on the car,
which is,
do you know
the crime, right?
Depending where you are located, let's say Texas, it is a crime. Spitting on someone is considered a form of assault or battery, and therefore a crime. I'm not saying that in New York it is, because it isn't. Like I looked, and I think it's one of those gray areas. I think it's attached to intent. So it's saying here is spitting assault in New York City. Spitting on someone is considered a minimum.
Definitely
unwanting contact, and is generally considered assault. So even in New York, it is. But the point in the matter is here, you have protesters that are obviously blocking traffic. Like if you go back to the video, you can clearly see that they're blocking, like they were preventing this woman from going, and they're lucky because I don't know if I would have stopped, but look in the back, like they're creating, you can see there's cars after cars after cars after cars after cars in the back end. And as you can see clearly here, they're hiding their face. You know, when I was looking at this video, you know what I was thinking? I'm like, okay, first, why is the police helping those people and not arresting them? Because that's clearly, you know what? If they're protesting, they're blocking the cars, devil's advocate. I will always play devil's advocate. Okay, sure. They're New York City, so obviously they can't go anywhere fast. I think that is that we can all agree to that.
Oh yeah.
But why are they spitting it? And look at the car. You can see multiple spitting residue right on the side of the window right here. So, you know, as we've been talking about a lot this week, I would love, I want to have Khalil be the person that's being thrown under the bus, that he's the one that this type of behavior is going to be 100%. Because in my views, I would have arrested those people, or I would have asked for ID. If any of them are not citizen, they're here on a visitor visa, they're here on a student visa, or they have a green card, bye-bye. And this is my point. And Jason right now is saying that this is fucking staged. Brother, I've seen it in my own, I've seen this with my own eyes when I was in Montreal. Like I've seen this.
Well,
so this is maybe this event, you know what?
Does it matter though? Like that's real saliva, whether they are paid to do it or not.
Let's say that it's staged. You know what? Again, we'll play devil's advocate because it's a video online. For all we know, that video is 5 years old. Let's say well, not 5 years old, because obviously the Free Palestine wasn't a thing, but let's say that it's 2 years old. But I've seen those in my life, with my own eyes. I've seen destruction of property, of public and private property. I've seen this type of behavior with people with my own eyes. So all I'm saying is that when I saw that video, it kind of connected me to the conversation that we've had pretty much all week, talking about Mahmoud Khalil and how he needs to be set an example, because I want to see people like this face consequences for their actions. If they're citizen and they're not destroying, like if they're not doing anything violent, that's their right to protest. They have free speech. They have the right to do that. I am all for protesting, no matter if I agree with you or not. But if this is considered assault, spitting on somebody's property, and this could be argued, right? You're going to argue it because the definition that I find everywhere is contact. But here it's saying a minimum for unwanted contact could be considered an assault. Could that be considered unwanted contact? My point is that a lot of those protests are around universities. They're always around campuses, around universities. It's always students, because it's the same thing in Canada. The people that are protesting in the streets are normally not 60-year-olds. They're early 20s, and it's always around universities. So can we, if people are going to protest and damage or prevent people from living their lives or assaulting people, I want to see your ID. Are you here on the visitor visa? Are you a student? Are you here on the green card? Bye-bye. You're gone.
Yeah.
You want to behave that way? Is that the type of people you want in your country? That's not the type of people I want. If you're going to assault people, if you're going to destroy property, bye-bye. You're gone.
Well, yeah,
that's my point with that video.
Yeah, and I think, you know, whether just to back to whether it's staged or not, it kind of doesn't really matter. Like we don't even need to worry about the intentions, whether they're staged. Just address the behavior. Was the behavior wrong or inappropriate? Because at the end of the day, it's going to have the same effect. If you start making examples of these people, then the people who are taking money to stage these things, you know, they'll think twice about doing it too if they know there's going to be actual real consequences.
And this is what I want to see from Khalil. From the Khalil trial, is that I want a precedent to be set where people can face consequences, because there's two things that's going to happen. He's either going to get away with it, which will just show people that they're allowed to do whatever the fuck they want, even though they're on whatever the fuck they want. Maybe not, like, obviously that's exaggerating, but they can push the limit of what's acceptable. Yet if it goes the other way, we're going to start seeing consequences. Because one of the things I always want to remind people is, if it was me with a bunch of my white Christian friends that would be doing that to people, would that be acceptable? Do you think that that same police officer would have just let me walk away? And there were two of them. There were one that split them up, and there was another one in uniform behind it. So if that was me with a bunch of white Christians, would that have been acceptable? This is always where I go back. If I cannot do that as a citizen of Canada, but other people on a fucking visa fighting for something that is not even happening in the country are allowed to do that, we know there's a problem. It should be the same for everyone, right? But we all know what happens. Just look at Toronto right now. They're capable of blocking Yonge Street in Toronto, which is the busiest intersection in fucking Toronto, arguably in Canada. They can shut it down to have a prayer, but then you saw this Christian guy a few months ago that's just sitting at an intersection with a sign that gets arrested. He was not blocking traffic,
that's
but then
bullshit.
you have hundreds of them blocking. There's police officers all over the place. What I'm saying is, stop pandering. You're either for it or you're against it. Plain and simple.
When I see those videos, that is infuriating, because that has nothing to do with prayer. That has nothing to do with practicing the religion. They have mosques.
You can pray at the mosque.
They have mosques. They can do that. That's a power move. That is an act of dominance. That is them saying, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want, and there's not a thing you're going to be able to do about it. And right now, the culture of the left, the way that has infected the way that we police society and the way government works, they're right. We won't do anything about it, and that's why they're doing it. I'd like to see every single one of them at least fined or something. Throw them in the drunk tank for the night or something. Like, we live in a secular society. There is this separation of church and state. I'll fight. You know, I'll go out in the streets to protect your right to believe whatever religion you want and practice your religion, but you do not get to do it and impose yourself on society. You don't get to shut down streets. You don't get to shut down society so you can pray. And the fact that we allow this is it's wrong on every level. And I agree. Examples need to start being made.
And I want to put this, because I love to argue with Jason. What is the logical connection to this and Khalil? Protests. This is the logical connection. The logical connection be it's not only protests, but like I was saying earlier, have you noticed that all those protests, those Free Palestine protests, are always around universities? They always stems around university, or the vast majority are around universities. The point I'm trying to make is that if January 6th was incited by Donald Trump, that means that Khalil, as one of the faces of the Free Palestine movement at Columbia University, should be held responsible for the crimes that they committed, as we saw yesterday when they were breaking and entering, and they took what was the term? They occupied Hamilton Hall on the campus of Columbia University. So technically, where I'm drawing the connection is it's always about students, it's always young people, and I want to know if those people are here on a green visa, or are they citizens? Are they here on a visa or a green card, or are they citizens? Because if they're not citizens, they shouldn't misbehave like that. That's what I'm saying. If spitting is a crime, if spitting on someone in some of the states in the US is a crime, you can argue on the card that I showed there. You can argue, and I agree, we can argue. But the point in the matter is that if somebody is the head of an organization or the head of a movement, my apologies, the head of a movement, and that movement causes trouble, commits crimes as part of their protests, should they be held accountable? I believe that they should. And that stems down to this type of behavior too. It's one thing if you're allowed, if you have a legal right, if you applied for a permit to hold a protest and you're blocking traffic. You know what? That's legal. Technically, it's legal. I very doubt that those guys had a permit. I very doubt it. But what bothers me is that you have police officers that are basically just pushing them off, as in go back to what you're supposed to do instead of questioning them or instead of arresting them. Because I don't think that was okay. There's one thing blocking traffic as part of a protest, but to start calling somebody name, they were calling her a bitch and they were spitting on her.
It was designed to intimidate, right? It's designed to instill fear.
Hold on. Let me say this. Do you know that you and I can fight? Did you know that in Canada, you and I could fight, and in the US, most places you can. Two people can fight. You're allowed between two people, if you agree that you can fight, it's okay. That's why, and I know because I've been in trouble before. I've been in trouble many times for fighting. You don't get in trouble for fighting. You get in trouble for disturbing the peace. And tell me this is not disturbing the peace right there. Yeah. You're not just preventing traffic from moving. You're spitting at someone and you're calling them name. That's the problem that I'm seeing here. And I want to know, are those people here legally? Are they not legally? Sorry. Are they here temporarily?
As
or are they citizens?
Are they?
Because if you're a guest, you can argue the part of the citizen all you want. You can argue that part until you're blue in the face. And that's why I'm taking those, removing them from the equation to get all together. But if those people are here on a student visa, on a regular visa like I am, like on a visitor visa, or they're here on the green card, and that is how they're behaving, kick them out. Is that really the type of people that you want in your country? That's the question we should ask ourselves.
Well, yeah, and I mean, to me, the connection between that and Khalil is exactly that. Maybe the way that their exact behavior.
I guess you're the one playing with my balls today. It's not Jason.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But the question is, what where do we draw the line on acceptable behavior for guests in the country? It's as simple as that. I mean, it really isn't. There are many, or not many, but several legitimate ways that green cards can be revoked. And so obviously free speech is not absolute for green card holders in the way that you could argue it should be for citizens. But yeah, it's really a matter of, if you, again, if we even just get away from the specifics and the particulars of these cases, I think a lot of people are just really sick of people who come into the country from outside of it and doing their best to cause social division, cause unrest, cause cracks, and cause trouble in the country.
And this is you know what? Well said. This is exactly what I'm thinking is it the type of person that you want to hear? Do you want students that are going to be studying, or do you want students that are going to be running down the street screaming about something that has nothing to do with the country where they are? And often it has to do with the countries they come from. That's why they're so interested in what's going on there.
Jason says you are missing the point here. You can
put his other one. Put his other video, because he has another comment. Address that. We'll address the first one first.
The timeliness and the media spin has instilled emotions to deter what this is really about: drawing the line against protesting against Israel. But it isn't. If people who are pro-Israel were behaving the exact same way, I'd be saying the exact same thing.
Yep, agreed.
I'd be saying the exact same thing. It's the way you protest. Yeah, I don't see any pro-Israel people going out and acting like that. And I'm sure if they were, it would be all over the news, because clearly these pro-Palestinian protesters, they've got cameras all over the place. They would see it. These are the bullies. These are the ones like lashing out and hitting people and attacking and causing destruction. It isn't the other side. But if it was the other side, I'd be the first to say, no, that's not right too. And if they're green card holders, they can also get the fuck out.
My message would be the same. I totally agree with you. I would be saying, I don't give a fuck where you're from. I'm talking about behavior. I don't care the color of your skin.
The issue.
What matters to me is, are you there are you a citizen, or are you a visa holder or green card holder? I don't care where you're from. Doesn't matter to me. If that's the type of violent behavior that you're going to display, is that really the type of person that you want in your country? Unless it's self-defense, obviously, but this is clearly not self-defense.
No, clearly not.
Clearly. I think Jason had another one, right?
Yeah. You're missing the point here. You can spit, curse, and destroy property and not get arrested. But you better not shun Israel or essentially attack Israel. But the issue is not really the point. And again, it's hard not to notice that you don't see that from pro-Israel protesters. But if you did, we at least I would be the first to say, agreed. Yeah, if you're a green card holder, get the fuck out. If it doesn't matter what your point is, what matters is your behavior and the way you go about addressing that point. And to me, that just seems sort of obvious.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. I hate to say it. I dislike to say it. I don't hate it. I dislike to say it, but you're absolutely right. To me, I don't care who you are. It's just a matter, when in Canada during the lockdowns, there were massive protests, like hundreds of thousands of people in the streets. You know what happened to violence? Nothing. There was nothing. Nobody broke anything. Nobody destroyed property. We were all in unison walking down the street to show that we were against what was going on. There was no violence. That they would have dreamt. There were police officers all over the place just fucking salivating for us to commit a crime so they could arrest us. Because we weren't going against a movement that is in a different country overseas. We were walking against our government. So they were salivating at us doing something. But you know what happened? Nothing. We were not violent. So there is a way not to be violent. And
you don't need to do that.
No, and this is my point. And the message would not be any different if they were pro-Palestine, pro-Israel. I don't care what you're protesting against. If you're starting to destroy or to arguably assault people or breaking and entering like they did on Columbia University, that's where you draw the line. And if those people are not from here, don't even fucking bye-bye. You're gone. Just cut it right there at the knee. Fuck off. That's all I'm saying. I'm tired of having people from different foreigners coming in Canada and the US and kind of getting a pass on everything. That's what it looks like from my perspective, and I'm tired of it.
Prairie, they are inciting and hostile. Yeah, I mean that's how I see it. Jason says, guys, we have guys in office right now who said they want to turn Gaza into a parking lot. Did the news cover that? You're not the first to say it because no one talks about it, but they're citizens, and we even said if Mahmoud Khalil had been a citizen and said what he said about eradicating the West, that's free speech. That's fine. But he's not. He's a guest. And if these people who said that turn Gaza into a pot, that's stupid. But I mean, if those people came in and said that they want to eradicate Western civilization, then I would also say they can get the fuck out too.
And this is exactly, you're banging on again. This is always what I'm going to drill in is the fact that they're guests. This is what bothers me. If you're an American, you're covered. You have a certain amount of free speech for you. The police are going to let it slide. But the point I'm trying to make is that we're always inviting people as guests in our countries, and a lot of them don't have our best interests at heart. Like, are you coming to Canada, to the US to fucking protest? This is my point. Man, fuck, bro, you're more of a righty than you think.
Well, how stupid of us to allow these people to come in and just cause division and cause issues. Again, it's one thing if you're a citizen, there's not a whole lot we can do. But if you're a guest, there are things we can do.
Is it the type of behavior? Just look at the behavior. Is it the type of people you want to hear? Because they could find a million other things to protest that's happening here. Why do they always seem to be protesting against something that's going on in a different country that I couldn't give two fucks about? Sorry.
Well,
sorry, not sorry.
And they even can protest that. They don't need to be behaving like that. They don't need to be attacking people. They don't need to be breaking into buildings. If you want to just go out and march peacefully pro-Palestine, I don't know. Even as a green card holder, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
When you start to advocate for the destruction of Western civilization, when we live in Western civilization and most of us don't want it eradicated, that's when you're going to run into a whole lot of people who are upset by that.
10 minutes. 10
Yes.
minutes. I got a few videos. We're going to finish light. There was a bunch of other videos. You know what? Let's play this one because it's not even supposed to be funny, but I want to smack
Is
him.
this Sarah McBride?
No, I'm going to play it right after.
Okay.
This is just, tell me you're watching this video and you don't want to smack that guy.
I am so proud of Canadians. I'm proud to have served a country full of people who stand up for what's right, rise to every occasion, and always have each other's backs when it matters most. This may be my last day here in this office, but I will always be boldly and unapologetically Canadian. My only ask is that no matter what the world throws at us, you always be the same.
You know what I just noticed? No, but do you know what I just noticed? It's not even real. It's AI.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But did he put this out though?
Oh yeah, this is everywhere. This is his last message. It's
That's
everywhere.
super weird.
But I use software. I don't use them anymore, but I had played around with softwares that will scan you.
Yeah.
And you have to speak for like 2-3 minutes, so they're gonna dub your accent, the way that you speak. But look at his hair. I just noticed that as we're watching it right now. Look at his hair, and he's moving his face. His hair don't move. Like I'm gonna remove the sound because he's just irritating. But look, see how his hair's not even moving. See, it stays perfectly the same. That's not real. That's AI. I just realized that now. And look how shiny he is. And that fucker's not able to speak that well 30 seconds in a row. You've never heard him be able to give a speech like that. But look at his hair. They don't move. That's fucking AI. Man, I didn't even.
Interesting. The fact that that's just laziness, and especially because it's like he put it out, right? So they could have just filmed it, but I guess I don't know why they would do that. But in any case, it just occurs to me like I just can't stand the way he talks. Like he talks like he's talking to a child, right? It sounds like he's talking to a 5-year-old.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my god.
I guess that makes sense that liberals voted for him. Hey,
yeah. I mean, safe space. It's a safe space here.
So that is a lighter video, I think. At least I believe. It's just, man, when I saw that, I wanted to smack him. But now AI Trudy, nice Prairie. AI Trudy. That is at least, fuck, I was going to say, at least we don't get to see him again. But I think it's even worse that now we have to deal with Carney. But so I wanted to, that's another video that you sent me. No, I don't think it's laziness, Jason. Jason's saying, Rob, laziness was the perfect word. This is laughable. I don't even think it's laziness, because if you've ever listened to him, he wouldn't have been able to go 30 seconds without it's like a Joe Biden in his 40s. Like, have you heard? Do you think Joe Biden? No. What I'm saying is, like, he's as competent mentally as Joe Biden, but he is in his 40s. Like, it's like Joe Biden at the end, he wasn't able to speak anymore. Like, he could not go for a minute at a time without hesitating, looking the fogness. That's the same thing with Trudeau. Trudeau's never been a good speaker. He's never been a good speaker.
Really? Eh? I guess I haven't watched enough of his speeches.
If you look at the way he speaks, he uses a lot. He's not a good politician. He's not an Obama type of orator or a Bill Clinton type of orator. He's not on that level whatsoever.
Huh.
Who can last longer on a Rogan podcast? Harris or Trudeau? I think Trudeau would be better than Harris at doing it.
Yeah, that's why she didn't go on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's very interesting because Trudeau is just, Harris is less, I think she's not as good as Trudeau when it comes to the way to be a politician. That says a lot. But yeah, Trudeau's just brutal to listen to. Just like Kamala, they're both brutal to listen to. Rob is like, it's a wash. Yeah, they're both retarded. I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, guys, I want to show you this video. Rob sent me that this morning. I had seen it yesterday, but I forgot about it. But watch this. And just to put some perspective to it, this is...
We will not take a lecture.
Sarah McBride.
So this is Sarah McBride, known as Tim McBride,
yeah.
a dude in a dress that's been elected as U.S. representative. But that is what he said yesterday. So listen to this.
We will not take a lecture on decorum from a party that incited an insurrection.
Obviously, that's the video I showed you, right? The video where the other guy just shuts it down. He's
the
like,
the
okay,
guy in the subcommittee introduced him as he, and the other guy freaked the fuck out, and then he just said, "Yeah, fuck out, we're adjourned."
So obviously, he's not going to take any lessons of decorum by Republicans that incited an insurrection.
Mm-hmm.
I appear to live rent-free in the minds of some of my Republican colleagues. I wish that they would spend even a fraction of the time that they spend thinking about me, thinking about how to lower the costs for American families. I wish they would spend a fraction of the time that they spend thinking about me, figuring out how to make government actually work better, rather than making it work worse in order to prove that government can't work. They are obsessed with culture war issues. The Republican Party is obsessed with culture war issues. It is weird and it is bizarre. And the American people deserve serious legislators, serious elected officials who are focused on bringing people together to deliver real results for the American people, not to play games and not to engage in schoolyard taunts.
Says the dude in a dress, pass as a woman.
They're so weird and bizarre.
That's been pushing that woke agenda for a decade now.
That's ridiculous.
That's been playing the the identity politics for at least a decade, even since Obama. That's trying to tell us that somebody that's been in power for 7 weeks has not lowered costs yet, that your own fucking party raised. Like the fact that that's a dude in a dress trying to tell Republican
the dude
what
in
to
the
do,
dress,
bro,
is calm.
You can't even figure out what fucking sex you are, asshole. Like, seriously,
the dude in the dress who lives as a woman is calling the rest of us weird and bizarre. Yeah, it's bizarro world. It's topsy turvy. And it's funny is I was watching topsy turvy.
Oh, sorry, I'm not cool enough, bro. I'm sorry.
I was watching the first few seconds, and I was like, I feel like that could be an effective, like, if just from a pure political standpoint, if Tim wanted to go that route, be like, you know, they're more worried about me than talking about the issues. I'm like, I could imagine that being an effective sort of line of political attack, especially for the base of the left. But then he goes into they're just so weird and bizarre. It's like, bro, come on, man. It occurred to me, maybe this guy thinks he's going to run for a higher office someday.
Which Jason's right. Did you notice the girl in blue during the whole speech? Even the green girl, she kind of nodded. After a while, she's like, look, I'm just going to fast forward it. It's hilarious. Look at the girl in the blue. She's like, she's taller and bigger than him. That's pretty funny. But look at the way she's looking. Like, even the girl in green, she's like, I'm not sure about this. Are you good? Hold on here. There's nothing like a dude in a dress speaking for women, calling Republicans weird.
Yeah, with all the women, behind them clapping. Yeah, they're all they're talking about fight the patriarchy. Meanwhile, they've got all these women, carrying water for this man at the lectern who's claiming to be a woman. Yeah,
get my bag, bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I gotta run at 2. I got to run right now, actually. I'm done.
All right, guys.
But again, thank you for everyone that joined. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your time with us. Even you, Jason, thank you for being here. And don't forget, I know it's written at the bottom here, but make sure to follow the Political Orphans on X and on YouTube. And if ever you're on X, make sure to repost this stream. This is how you could help us. Do whatever you want, but we're just asking.
Yep.
It's Friday. You can repost the stream. Like, comment, repost. Make sure to follow Rob. His information's at the bottom. Rob_the_builder. I'm at Real Nico Lagan absolutely everywhere. So you can follow us. I don't know if you want to finish this, Rob, if you have anything else to
No,
add.
everything you said was pretty much bang on. Guys, thank you so much for being here. You know, you could have been anywhere in the world today and you chose to be here with us. So have a great weekend and we will see you guys Monday.
Peace out,
Even a
guys.
fucko like you. Yes, Jason, even a fucko like you.